see, he might have snuck off the stage, up here also. You're going to hear from all of them in just a second. So this announcement is in reference to a matter that we've gathered here several times in this office over the spring and summer. It involved a serial child abductor and predator. So before I turn it over to the chief and the prosecutors to give some details of the recent developments, just want to pass on some quick thanks. So if you bear with me, I'd appreciate it. First and foremost, to the investigative team from the Cleveland Division of Police, the Elyria PD, the FBI, the Violent Crimes Task Force, the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office, folks, the detectives, officers, agents, analysts, professional staff, just worked countless hours on this matter. It was a truly representative of the best in law enforcement, interagency approach, one team, one fight. So for months, they conducted a comprehensive, thorough investigation, leaving no stone unturned, which included over 500 tips that was received through the public caring about this matter. The second group I'd like to thank is you all, the media. We do not take this for granted. You all went above and beyond to make sure that any information we had about the suspect, about the vehicle, about any bit of information over the last several months, you got that out there, including on national news. And we believe that's directly responsible for the reason why we had so many tips that aided the investigators along the way. And then third, the state, the forensic team, the lab, the Bureau of Criminal Investigation. You're going to hear from Attorney General DeWine in just a minute. That's going to go in details about the critical assistance they provided. So folks, you know, we talked about this before, working crimes against children matters as a priority of all the agencies up here. In fact, there's probably no greater calling and no more important work that is done up here by the professionals. It is a true team sport. Today was a good day for the team. With that, Chief, turn it over to you.
Thanks, Steve. Good morning. As most of you know, May of this year, a heinous crime took place in the city on the west side. A little girl was taken from her home in the dead of night by basically a monster, a person that we had not identified. And as a result of that abduction, we know was sexually assaulted. She was shortly thereafter reunited with her family through the efforts of law enforcement. And so began what you see assembled here, a team of officers from the Division of Police, from our Cleveland office of the FBI, Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Office, Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office, to find out who did this. And it's my pleasure to announce that on Friday, this team that you see assembled behind me made an arrest in that case. Justin Christian was arrested at his home in Lorraine, and today we will be, and the prosecutor will talk about this, we will be seeking a grand jury indictment for the crimes that he committed that day in May. This doesn't happen without a great team of officers. Again, detectives from the Cleveland Division of Police, field agents from here, Steve Anthony's office of the FBI, our Attorney General's office, Mike DeWine and his crew at BCI did a great job, the County Prosecutor's Office, and of course our partners here from Elyria PD. We don't do these things in a vacuum. This was a heinous crime again that happened, and our partners, without really even asking for their help, stepped up to the plate, and we got this done today. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Whiteley from Elyria, who has a few words. Thanks.
Good morning. Today is truly a great day. I can tell you from February till now, we've had officers working from all the departments and agencies involved in this that have put in hours upon hours upon hours of work. And that's just while they're working. When they're at home, they're constantly thinking and working on their own time, trying to figure out what they can do and how they can do it. I cannot say enough about the work that everybody has put into this. I get to stand up here and talk to all of you. I did nothing. They did all the work, and truly honored to be able to come up and represent the work that they did, because through their efforts, we took a predator off the streets. Can't say enough about that. But just thank you very much for your patience. A lot of time, a lot of effort, but through all that effort came a good thing. So very happy about that. With that, I'd like to introduce Attorney General Mike DeWine.
Good morning, everyone. We are here today because of the hard work of all the agencies that are represented in this room. Let me thank the teams of people who worked on this, and it really was teams. Cleveland Police Department, the Elyria Police Department, the FBI, Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office, and our own BCI. This case really represents the worst fears of any parent. And I will tell you that the men and women who worked on this case are parents, some are grandparents, and they felt this case very, very much. And they did everything they could in their power to take this predator off the streets. And so what we're announcing today is a direct result of really a combined work. This is how law enforcement is supposed to work, and that's how it certainly worked in this case. What is different in this case is that the Ohio Attorney General's Office, BCI, used a new tool in the investigation. And this was the first time that we have used this tool in the state of Ohio. It's called familial DNA search. Familial DNA search, F-A-M-I-L-I-A-L. My goal for BCI has always been for us to be the best crime lab in the country, to continue to do excellent work and to break into new technologies and new science. So in 2012, I authorized BCI to research and take a close look at implementing familial DNA. Shortly after that, BCI purchased software and worked to validate that software, and that took a number of months. We studied other states' protocols, and we studied what other states had learned. We developed our own 12-page protocol. It's our 12-page protocol, which will be available to the media if you want to take a look at it. We developed our own 12-page protocol to outline when and how it is appropriate to use this tool. The summary of this protocol is, it must be a crime that is a crime of violence, causing serious injury or death, or which demonstrates a continuing threat of imminent and serious harm to one or more members of the community, and a crime that has not been solved by traditional methods of investigation. Earlier this year, we made the decision that we had done enough validating and we were ready to move forward with this technology. Well, I must limit my comments and not really talk about this individual case. What I do want to explain, because this is the first time we've used it, is how familial DNA actually does work. This familial DNA is not the last stop in a case. It's only a tool that can be the lead that eventually puts law enforcement on the path to solving the case. Detectives and men and women of these different departments still have to do old-fashioned police work to confirm more details after this DNA work is done. But this DNA match can provide the key lead when all of their avenues are exhausted and there's a real danger out there to the public. And that was the situation in this case, and that's why we used it in this case. Here's how it works. If DNA, unknown DNA from a crime scene or from a victim, does not match to any DNA in BCI's database, BCI now has the capability to search for familial DNA. This DNA identifies someone with a genetic near match. Let me repeat that, a genetic near match to the person who actually committed the crime. Could be a brother, father or son. We have at BCI now specialized software that looks for the genetic near matches in the state DNA database. A familial search will identify the top 100 DNA profiles, male DNA profiles, that could potentially be siblings, and the top 100 male DNA profiles that could be potentially fathers or sons, potentially. From there, once those 200 have been identified, our scientists pull DNA samples on those top 200 potential matches. Those DNA samples are located at BCI, and we have about 600,000 of them. Then our BCI scientists conduct another test on each of these 200 samples. It is something called a YSTR test. The test singles out the Y chromosome in males, which fathers pass on to their sons. This is a process that, as you can imagine, because we're doing it 200 times, is very labor intensive and does take some time. Sometimes, after testing all the 200, we may find 2 or more possible relatives. Let me just repeat, this is the first time we've done it in Ohio, but this has been done in other places. And so what I'm talking about is the general, what we have learned over the years as far as the results. So sometimes after testing the top 200, we might find 2 or more possible relatives. Sometimes we don't find any. Sometimes there may be just 1. And again, that's a possible relative. But even if we find just 1, there's still just a potential relative of the person. That's still just a potential relative of the person who committed the crime. It doesn't mean it's actually a relative. But it does mean there's a high probability this person is related to the person who committed the crime. At that point, BCI criminal analysts do background analysis on the person we identified through the familial DNA and look at his male relatives. Again, old-fashioned basic police work. We're looking to see if there may be a connection to the crime. For example, if one of the relatives is local, is close to where the crime scene would be committed, and all the other things that good police work would entail us doing. After that, after we get that results, we meet with the original detectives and the people who are on the case, the law enforcement agencies who are on the case, to share with them what we have gathered. And then, once again, the old-fashioned police work again kicks in. Once an individual has been identified, and once an individual, there's been enough probable cause to arrest that individual, an individual suspect's DNA can be collected, and more traditional DNA work at that point will be done. In high-priority cases in which public safety is at great risk and the public is in danger, I've authorized our scientists to work 24/7, including weekends, to expedite these final results. And that was done in this case. I would like to thank those scientists who make family sacrifices, especially during the holiday season. And I also want to thank all law enforcement who has worked 24/7 on this case. I want to thank them for the sacrifices that they have made and for the great work that they have done to expedite such important evidence so alleged offenders can be brought before the court. Our scientists, our agents, and our officers are protecting Ohio families, something we all are grateful for today. And I'm talking now about each and every one of the departments. Again, this is a first for the Ohio Attorney General's office, first for BCI and for Ohio. Familial DNA searches use partial information as a lead, just like we use partial license plates or other partial information as real investigative leads in police work. Nearly a dozen other states use DNA searches. California, Colorado, familial DNA searches. California, Colorado, Texas, Virginia, Arkansas, Florida, Michigan, Utah, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. As Attorney General of this state, it has been our goal to make BCI crime labs among the best in the country. Today we have taken another step seeing that realized by offering to law enforcement in the state of Ohio, on a selective basis, familiar DNA searches that ultimately can keep Ohio families safer. This can be a really invaluable tool. And as we always say, I must remind you that all individuals arrested, anyone who's been arrested, is presumed innocent until prosecuting attorneys, such as prosecuting attorney McGinty, establish their guilt beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. Thank you. Let me introduce County Prosecuting Attorney Tim McGinty. And let me just say what a great pleasure it has been, an honor for me to work with him over the last few years. It is fitting, I think, that this is the first case that this occur and will be prosecuted by Prosecuting Attorney McGinty's office. We have worked together on many other issues, and certainly none more important than the old rape kit work. Which frankly would not have happened. The arrest would not have been made, except a great combined effort here in Cuyahoga County, in the city of Cleveland, and Prosecuting Attorney Tim McGinty has certainly been the leader of that. So Tim, turn it over to you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The case that occurred in Lorain, Ohio, Lorain County, Elyria, Ohio, on February 24th, and then the crime that occurred in May of this year in Cleveland off West 104th Street were greatly concerning to all law enforcement. There were other instances which the MO matched, and it was apparent we had a child rapist who would break into homes to steal children. A shocking case, and we knew this rapist had to be apprehended as soon as possible. There are many people I want to thank here, and I will thank and credit, but first and foremost, I want to thank our Ohio's Attorney General, Mike DeWine. When all leads were exhausted by all these departments working together, Elyria first and the Lorain County Prosecutor Dennis Will, they worked their hard. Chief, you've got leads. Your officers have obtained leads that were so handy and so amazingly helpful when this later information came together, and also the Cleveland Police. The lead detective was Detective Durst. Commander Pike, and between McPike and Durst and all the men and women in between at the Cleveland Police Department, and all the agents, the special agents of the FBI who worked on this case, and with assistance from the Sheriff's Department of Sheriff Pinckney and BCI, everybody working together, we had no leads. In the end, many people were checked, many leads were followed, many seemed interesting. Hundreds and hundreds of hours were put in. And at that point, it became apparent all we could do is we put the car, if the media will recall, we put the car out, there were photos of the car, they did great exhaustive searches of the area and had a picture of a 2005 Camaro with a bad fender or a changed front left fender. They had pictures of the man in the alley. He was a very careful, diabolical stalker. They had pictures of him off 104th Street. The Elyria Police and the Lorain prosecutor team they had actually obtained the records of the exact times this man broke in, because there was an alarm system that showed that times the windows were lifted and shut and the doors were open. He had been scouting the place. This matched other places in Cleveland and Lorain County, which we believe this same MO was present. But yet, with all this evidence, we had nothing. So I called our Attorney General. I called Mike DeWine and BCI, and our team, Rick Bell and Matt Meyer, urged BCI, which we have a very close relationship with, from the Rape Kit Task Force. Thanks to Attorney General DeWine and the BCI if there's ever, let me put it this way, if the rapists ever form a rape society for the benefit of rape, the number one enemy of the rapists in Ohio should be Mike DeWine and BCI. That should be the top of their bad guy list, because he's gotten over 500 indictments that would have otherwise gone unsolved in Cuyahoga County alone, and many more across the state. So I called him, and we called BCI, and we urged them that this is the time to go familial. This is the time to do what some other states have done and do this familiar, because we're at dead end, and all we can do is wait and hope that the guy makes a mistake on his next rape case and on his next victim. And that was not satisfactory to Attorney General DeWine. He created this criteria of the most serious of cases where law enforcement can demonstrate they have exhausted all leads, and he came up with this search. And this is why we're here. Within 10 hours of receiving this lead, you will see from the photos of the arrested individual and the composite drawings in the photos a very near match. You will see from the FBI's tracking down of the car, and they did great work in tracking down hundreds and hundreds of cars in this area, looking at 2005 Camaros, couldn't find it. Turns out that it was registered in mid or southern Ohio, in the Columbus area. They've attached the car to them. With BCI help and assistance, they have matched the ladder used. This guy was a second story man in Chief Whiteley's crime in his jurisdiction in Elyria. He left DNA on that ladder that he'd used to go in and try to abduct and take the girl out of the house. That DNA matches the DNA from the 6-year-old victim, who was carried out in a satchel from the house at 104th and Western. And so you have a match of those two. Then BCI and Diane and her team and everybody there has got a match to the ladder, which matches the fluids, the DNA left behind on the 6-year-old girl who was attacked so viciously by this individual. So this is a major case which would otherwise been unsolved. The probable cause in the arrest, however, was not, the evidence we used was not evidence from that. The DNA was unnecessary. The follow-up, it gave us the tip, it put us in the direction, and the Cleveland police, FBI, Elyria police, Lorraine prosecutors, and sheriffs and the others involved went and put the information together that this fella matched all the other criteria, went out and obtained other information on a search. These agents, BCI and federal agents and police officers, made an arrest late Friday, and with great police work, and conducted searches into the middle of the night. As far as I know, this was record time to my knowledge to get a DNA match. They may have done better, but I've never seen faster on this. So we want to thank them. Thanks to this teamwork, which has been going on for some years, with Steve Anthony and the FBI, Sheriff Pinckney, Chief Williams, between all these agencies, we are solving a lot more cases than ever before. It is time for the criminals to beware that you can run, but you cannot hide. The familial DNA will be used most carefully. I read extensively, and I want to thank Prosecutor Morrissey in Denver, Colorado. He's the prosecutor who first used it, and the other states. And there have been lessons learned over the last several years. And I think Attorney General DeWine's protocol handles all of the issues that might develop, that this will be used only in the most serious of cases. And Without it, this case would not have been solved. Whoever I haven't thanked, I apologize, because the team was so big, so many people have worked on this case. It's amazing. And this fella who did this diabolical criminal, one of the most sick and warped people I've met in a long career, will face justice. He's in jail, and we'll open up for questions at this point.
Where is he in jail?
Calgary County Jail, or city, I'm not sure if I think he's been transferred into Calgary County. He was in the city of Cleveland Jail and transferred over.
Do you know when he'll be in court?
No, I don't. Within several days.
How old is he?
87 was his DOB, 1987.
Past history?
Pardon me?
Past criminal history?
He has a criminal history, not sexual, not that significant. It was drug-related in the Elyria area. The Elyria police were familiar with him and his family. In the Court of Common Pleas, Calgary County.
There were some other cases that you talked about that had the same MO. Is he connected to any other cases?
We can't say at this point, but they are being further investigated. There was not DNA left behind in those cases.
What specific cases are you talking about?
We can't discuss it, but there are other instances in which the same MO was employed, and they were of great interest to all these police agencies who thoroughly investigated these cases. And we sought help from FBI experts. Are we on the right track, or are we on the wrong track? And we readjusted according to this advice, but we knew there was a problem. We knew there was an active predator trying to steal children from homes, to little children, to rape them. And we have other evidence that will connect him to the events we have charged him with, and we'll thoroughly investigate any other possibilities.
Any social media connections?
Yes. There may be a social media connection with the children as a way for the predator to have targeted them. And it's another instance where parents should be very aware of their young children's social media contact, because as we have an ICAC program, Internet Crimes Against Children, in Calgary County, and it's all over America, and all over the state of Ohio also. Many of these predators try to approach children, acting as children, and they get on Kik or some of these other social media, have interchanges with them, and then learn where they live by exchanging information. Well, my favorite ice cream store is up at the corner, and they serve this ice cream. Where is your favorite ice cream store? So then they zero in on the neighborhood. Well, I know somebody on Elm Street, and then they work in. And they work until they know where the kid lives.
Was there communication back and forth?
We're still investigating that. As to the extent, we have not completely made a complete analysis of the electronic communications or social media communications, but our first indications are it is a factor in this case.
Well, the house where he was arrested, does it match some of the description that the 6-year-old gave?
We're not going to comment on that at this point, but there are good indications that the young lady, the young 6-year-old's memory was reliable.
If he lived in Lorraine, what was the connection to Cleveland?
He committed a crime in both counties, so the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office is prosecuting this simultaneously in conjunction with the Lorain County prosecutors.
No, I mean, did he know somebody in that neighborhood? Was he familiar with that neighborhood?
He is connected to the Elyria neighborhood, and he is connected to where he was searched, and he also has connections to the Cleveland area, to where to the crime where we charged him with occurred in other areas.
What are the connections?
The familial. He is his family lives in both areas.
Still ongoing.
Okay.
Is he related in any way to the victim?
done. That,
Beyond social media?
well, I don't want to go into detail, but there was no prior relationship between the families and this individual charged. They had no interconnections whatsoever known to them other than possibly social media, which is still under investigation.
Where was the car recovered?
That's an FBI issue.
Yeah, the vehicle was recovered, as you can see some of the parts, you see the before and after, that's what was left of it. And again, investigations continue to determine how exactly that happened and the intent of Mr. Christian and or others in that matter. But the vehicle was recovered nearby in Cleveland. I just want to emphasize this is an ongoing investigation, as Prosecutor McGinney has made very clear. I mean, some of these things were just not going to be answered. We still need to know. So here's the thing: you all have been great throughout this, getting the information out on this. We can't thank you enough. We sort of like that to continue. Let me give you, whether it's Crime Stoppers, whether it's Cleveland Division of Police, whether it's our number at 216-622-6842, any information the public might have, now that we know this individual to your left is going to be charged with the crimes as described by Prosecutor McGinney, if you have any information that would connect this individual or other individuals to any related crimes, we really need to know. So if you could continue to get that out there, I think we want to emphasize that point. But it is an ongoing investigation. Quite frankly, folks, there's a lot of questions we still have to answer. The investigation is not over. This team that you see here from Cleveland Division of Police, Elyria, the FBI, the county, and others, there's a lot of work to be done. But obviously the evidence was developed, has been described to charge this individual. But we're going to be plowing forward. So we'd appreciate any help we could get in that regard.
Any other arrests? Have there been any other arrests?
No.
Could there be?
Well, again, there's no other arrest at this time, but I think the point to emphasize is investigations continue. We'll again continue to try to turn over every stone to see if there's anything else there, that if anyone had any relationship or support of the individual that's charged. Obviously, you know that law enforcement, we're always going to try to keep digging until we completely identify everyone and anyone that's responsible for these horrific crimes. Okay, folks?
This
Yep.
wasn't just a job for you guys, this was an emotional investment for months on the part of hundreds of people trying to solve it.
Well, I think the best way to describe that, it's a great question, is look at this room. So everyone here, and this is just a small fraction of all the different folks from all the different agencies, that again, when you say spent countless hours, I know it sounds cliche, and how do you do that? And I mean, in this case, countless hours. We were going over that this morning, trying to think of all the different aspects of the investigation as what was described, that we tried to, again, figure out, again, with your all help, with the tips, over 500 tips from the public caring about this, giving us information. Then, of course, the good old gumshoe investigative work done by the agencies here, it never stopped. But I think as described today, it's a great story in the sense of, you heard from Attorney General DeWine, using every tool in the tool bag here in Ohio is the best way to fight these child predators, and that's exactly what happened in this case. All right? Thank you, folks. Appreciate it.
Understand what the posters are. So that was his car. This is what's in the car. That's what's like the that we can't really talk about, but that's what we're looking at. So we wanted to show that.
No, I know. No.
If anyone needs to interview the Attorney General, he has to leave, so we need to do it now.
Hey, fellas. 94, I'm gonna give you this.
No, I got it. Well, and then there's people texting me